second session of poetry reading is now over, and now we have a panel discussion on the topic Impact of Globalization on Language and Literature. And the participants are Professor Swati Guha, P. Raman, Mrityunjay Kumar Singh, Rolf Duffenberg, and the session will be moderated by Nishi Pulugurtha. May I now ask Professor Swati Guha and P. Raman, Mrityunjay Kumar Singh, Rolf Duffenberg, as well as Nishi to come over here and take your respective seats. Has previously been Director, Nazrul Center for Social and Cultural Studies, Kazi Nazrul University, West Bengal, and Development Officer, Sidhu Kano Biswa University, West Bengal. In addition to her administrative roles, Dr. Guha is also well known as a creative writer and has written many fictional and non-fictional books and has earned recognition through various literary and cultural awards. We have P. Raman with us. P. Raman, as we know, have just won the Yapanchitra National Award. He is one of the leading Malayalam poets of the 1990s, and he pursued his post-graduation in Malayalam from Government Sanskrit College in his hometown, and he then worked as a Malayalam teacher in several schools, and his first collection was published in the year 2000. Raman has 6 poetry collections, 1 collection of translations of Tamil stories, and a book of translated poems. And we have Rolf Duffenberg with us. Rolf is a French poet, one who lives in Germany. And yesterday I was telling you all that his CV is as long as my arm. So he has got a number of publications. He has been traveling all over the world, participating in various national and international seminars. He was invited in India, first by ISISR, International Society for Intercultural Studies and Research, Kolkata. And now we are proud to have Rolf with us. And then in the panel, we have Mrityunjay Kumar Singh, our own MKS, as we all fondly call him. He is an IPS officer by profession. He is a poet, a lyricist, and I don't know how many times I have heard him reciting his Draupadi, and he has also a Bhojpuri novel, Ram Ratan Bideshi, which has been translated into English. And we are looking forward to hear his comments. And then we have, and the session, I hope that I haven't left out anyone. And yes, because it's a great task. And we have Nishi with us, Nishi Pulugurtha. And Nishi is a poet, a translator, and editor, and she has recently published a collection which deals with all kinds of reflections on pandemic, if I am not wrong, and it was published by Routledge in the year 2023. And the best thing is that we are growing old together. So Nishi, the entire floor is yours, and we are all looking forward to hearing all your comments.
Good afternoon once again. It gives me great pleasure to moderate this session. Most of us deal with words, with literature, with poetry, with language. And it's also very interesting to hear about what practitioners of literature would like to say about the changes that we write about in our poems, but would also like to hear them talk a little bit more about these changes that they see around them and how it is affecting their own practice of writing, and of course our own practice of reading as well, because that is something else that we do. This particular panel is on the impact of globalization on language and literature, and we'll make the first, each of you get to make the first remarks in 5 to 6 minutes, and we'll take it up from there. We'll see how it goes on from there. So I think it would be nice if you could have a kind of a conversation between us after we make the initial few remarks. And as Prabhada tells me that we're not going to, you need not stick to 30 minutes. We can actually have some little more time, which is always a nice thing, particularly coming from the organizers. Globalization, of course, is something that we've been talking about for several years now. And when we talk of it in terms of language and literature, we're also talking of in terms of cultural exchange. We're also talking of in terms of accessibility of diverse languages, diverse literature, diverse literary works. We're also talking about the ability to discover till now unknown literatures and language and cultures as well. But we're also talking about the flip side of that as well, where we see some of the languages getting more prominence than the others. So we're going to hear each of our panelists speak about what they think on this particular topic. And I would begin first with Professor Shati Guho. Shati Di? You can sit there and speak as well.
I'll be comfortable to.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I'm thankful to be invited here. And I think it's a very important thing to, from my part, that I think I am the only person who is not poet here. I practice. I think all of you who are present here are poets, but I write only prose, short stories and novels. But I get the invitation by force. Okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and it's nice to be here and to take part in this panel. I just want to share a few of my thoughts and my journeys. Famous Indian American anthropologist and theorist of globalization studies, Arjun Appadurai, defines globalization as a multi-way process involving flows of ideas, ideologies, people, goods, images, messages, technologies, and techniques. Generally, we believe that it is the only language that assists us to be speak and to be understood by others. Even birds and animals have their own languages. Language is a bridge which connects people globally to meet the changing trends of the mass. No language is, we must say, no language is inferior or superior. Rather than, one can say that each language is unique. And I want to believe that every language is language, no dialect is there. Globalization is one such factor that brings rapidity in this space of growth and development. Steger, in his book Globalization, a very short introduction published in 2003, defines globalization as a process characterized by the existence of global economic, political, cultural, linguistics, and environmental interconnections that make the way of currently existing borders and boundaries irrelevant. But I believe it is theoretically true, because till date we need passport and visas for everybody to, and our identity is based on that, which color of passport we belongs. Globalization in the recent phenomenon is not a recent phenomenon, but it has undoubtedly, Nishi has already told that, operated is faster since 1980s, when we are in the school, and it's readily increasing today's world. It has affected our languages also. Sometimes it positively, sometimes it negatively, because being a Bengali and staying in Kolkata, in West Bengal, till then I can understand other languages like Hindi and English. It makes me feel like that I can reach beyond my language border. Our culture has been affected in many ways. Globalization has brought the world more closer, as everything is accessible in every corner of the world. And here, I have bring my two of my books. It is a short story collection, Bengali short story collection, that the title of the book is Sharha Katuil Kimba Before Sunriser Golpo. Sharha Katuil is these two words I took from Purulia region, where Sharha is the young hen and Katuil is the male hen. And Before Sunriser Golpo, I think many of us know the name of the film, that famous film, but it came in a amalgamated way in my title of one of my story and title of my book. I think all these are result of globalization. Of course, I don't think this is very wrong thing or like like that. And because it has everything, that like everything has, the coin has the two part in globalization, that part also, it's something is good, something is not that part, not that good. Yeah, we have seen the film productions in our country, that like English, Angrezi medium, Hindi medium, they all have critiqued these things and shows the good side of those things also. If we talk about the popularity of the one language, this is called English. This is the only, I think, the link language we can talk to each one, because someone came from France, someone came from the other countries and other part of our countries. This is the only medium language or link language we can communicate. So if it's even then it's a colonial language. We get it from our colonial part, colonial time. Even then we can't take it, we can't say that we don't use it, because it gives us immense possibilities to access knowledge from across the world. It is the only medium of communication for us. All the global south, global north, all the things, and decoloniality, what we have says, but we can't do without this language. But for something is happening also in our state also. We are facing tremendous problem of each of our mother tongue, because now the children or the parents doesn't want to teach their children through their mother tongue or Bengali, but Bengali not all of us mother tongue. It should be considered. Just recently I have been there in Alipurduar, and they have, at least in a small place, they have 24 indigenous languages. Indigenous language communities are there. Even they also trying to get the information from the world through this language only. And these are the things they are also thinking to publish their poetries in their mother tongue when they came to know that in other part of the world it is happening. So I don't think that globalization is the curse for us. If we take it positively, of course it will help us, and we will reach the every corner of the world. Otherwise we can't be like ওই কুপমণ্ডুক হয়ে থাকার সময় আর নেই আমাদের, মানে we will have to reach there, and we will have to get knowledge from there. This knowledge transfer system can't be utilized without this globalization thing, without this technology and the language. And here the English language is overpowering all of us. We'll have to take it. I think we will reach, someday we will reach in another place. Like that, I am a vernacular writer. I can't reach the readers from across the globe. But when my novel is translated in English, I can reach the other people, other part of the people, other globe. Then I can share their things, what they are thinking, and they also get, because India or global South is not the only place of case studies, because we have to offer something to the world. So we'll have the patient, we need the patient to reach everybody and get knowledge from everybody, and this amalgamation gives us the optimum knowledge and optimum pleasure of literature, language, and everything, and humanism too. Thank you for patient learning.
Thank you so much for speaking, for bringing up these ideas of language and the fact that dialects need to be considered as language. We now move on to our next panelist, P. Raman.
Namaskaram. We all have some ideas on this issue, so I minimize one or two angles in my observations. I have a fear I cannot express my ideas through my spoken English, so I read my observations. Let me start with Tagore, just like yesterday's session. One of my favorite writings about reading Tagore's works is by the Chinese poet Yu Jian. Born in 1962, Yu Jian is a poet with a distinctive voice in contemporary Chinese poetry. He has written about the difficulties of reading poetry books during the time of the Cultural Revolution in 1975. Yu Jian once saw someone secretly selling a book with a yellow cover. It was a banned book. He bought one, and when he opened it, the poems imprinted themselves on his mind. He paid a high price for that book. Recalling the moment he first opened it, he says, "I took the book and read it in lightning speed. It was a thin book of only 60 pages with a yellow cover entitled Stray Birds, written by someone called Rabindranath Tagore. I didn't have a clue who Tagore was. It was in 1975. And there was a lot of red underlinings on the pages. If you shed tears when you miss the sun, you also miss the stars. Stuff that blew me apart when I read it. Remember, this was in 1975. Later, he and his friends reread the poems together, made copies, and secretly distributed them. Eugene describes how Tagore influenced him as follows. When I was 21, Tagore came into my life, the poet best suited to that age. With his godlike voice, he praised nature, human existence, and love. The secretive journeys of literature like this were completely opened up by globalization, with globalization. Today, this description of a secret journey to Tagore can be read by readers worldwide through the internet. Even as I write this from Malayalam, a poet today can understand and another poet is what another poet is writing in Spanish, Chinese, Icelandic, Basque, Catalan, Welsh, or indigenous languages like Maya Quiche or Mapudungun. This inspires every language's poetry to rise to a global level while retaining its linguistic experiences. That's important. Let me share an experience from Malayalam. Professor Swati Guha mentioned about that experience. A significant recent development in Kerala poetry is that writers from tribal communities have begun writing extensively. They now write equally in their native languages and Malayalam. With globalization opening up paths, we know today that writing is happening in many global languages and tribal languages. Just as we can now compare the unique features of Sukumaran Chaligadda, writing in the Raula language, very native tribal language in Kerala, with the unique features of Humberto Acabal, a poet writing in Maya Quiche from Guatemala, we can draw parallels. We can compare Sukumaran Chaligadda, and that Humberto Acabal from Guatemala. He writes in Maya Quiche language. Like a digital map that expands in detail as you zoom in, today's literature, deeply local in essence, yearns to be read on a global scale. It seems that contemporary literature focuses on not being global in theme, but at the same time desires global readership for the expressions of local experiences. I believe the tension between these two states is very important today. This tension is simultaneously political, aesthetic, and linguistic also. I think this condition, where literature wishes to remain local but also become global, is what is referred to as glocal. Yes. For this purpose, the poets in regional languages uses now an international diction, as Prabal Kumar Basu mentioned in an essay on Bengali poetry today. Yes. In Yapanchitra's collection, I read that essay. We know that the tendencies brought about by globalization impact not just literature but life itself in a comprehensive way. While there are improvements in people's lives, globalization is also destructive in many aspects. As needs increase and the cost of living, as needs increase and the cost of living rises exorbitantly, people are falling into debt. In many ways, globalization directly or indirectly plays a role in criminalizing society. Violence was always here in our own life, and literature always addressed that violence. But I think now a new imaginative world of violence spread through globalization, globalized art and literature. It's a violence hailed by filmmakers, fiction writers, musicians, and poets also. That is the new development in our time. Violence becomes normalized in life, literature, and art. This contemporary violence stems from a bewilderment about how to confront the violence of globalization. In that sense, it can be called global violence. How to address this is a crisis faced by Indian literature, including Malayalam today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that very succinct and a very balanced kind of discussion on globalization. We are almost, even Shati also spoke about the same thing. So several of the points are very common among, between what we are thinking about. We're almost thinking along the same lines. And she also spoke about how she doesn't want to think of dialects and considers them to be language. She spoke about these various languages in Alipurduar and how people are using those languages to write. You also brought in that element when you spoke about this tribal language being used to write literature, and how literature written by two different communities in two very different parts of the world can be brought together because of globalization. And I'm also very interested, fascinated by how you spoke about the negative impact and the way in which we get to see it in literature, particularly in terms of the normalization of violence that you speak about, which you see in the world around you and also in the writing. So thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. We now move on to Mrityunjay Kumar Singh.
Thank you, Nishi. Well, I will focus, of course, literature will come because literature emanates from languages. But language comes before literature, and language comes before literature, and language carries the whole weight of culture of a particular kind. I will begin with just two small quotes from two very specific persons, one of the exterior, one now. This is Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, a German writer and a statesman. During his times, you can remember when, he famously observed, national literature is now rather a meaningless concept. The time of universal literature is approaching, and everyone must try to speed its arrival. He wanted the literature to become global and not local and national anymore. Now we have our Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak. One of her book became very famous, The Palace of Illusion. She says that the study of her view is that the study of world literature frequently disregards the power of a work in its original language. You know what happens when we talk about translations. Translations cannot bring about the flavor and the essence and the taste actually of that. It's something like the Chinese being eaten in Calcutta. It is a Calcutta Chinese. It is not a Chinese. But it is noodles, of course. You have shrimps, noodles, everything. But it has changed the character. So what happens in translation, it changes the character. And which translation or a translator is good translation or a good translator, who can keep the essence and the taste as nearest as possible to the original of the work. And that is of the prime importance nowadays. Unfortunately, Because globalization, all of a sudden everybody has started talking about globalization, globalization, globalization. Humans have been migrating. So why are we so bothered? People have been migrating since time immemorial. I mean, people that a philosopher like and a thinker like Hiltebettel in the Chicago University, when he talks about Mahabharata, there's a book written by him, Freud's Mahabharata. And there he compares with a very logical thing that when the Alexander came to India, do you think he came only with the army and no intellectual or no pandits or no wise man with them? Those wise men, when they came to any place, they met the wise men here. And there was always an interchange and exchange of ideas and thoughts, maybe some exchange of books also. They did not understand that time, but later they must have read in some way or the other. Our people migrated to some areas. So what happens? We draw a similarity between Homer's literature and Mahabharata, both being the epics of two civilizations. But they are about human hubris, which is common. Okay, the languages are different, but the issues are the same. So why I am telling you this, that globalization basically is a bombardment of interconnectedness, in the sense with the www, that web and the internet, it has bombarded us so heavily that we have all of a sudden become unstable and disheveled, and it's like our house being rampaged by thousands of people at a time. But earlier, there was a burglary, there was a theft, there was somebody coming into a house and taking my things away. We did not bother because there was a one book. How does it matter? But when my own library is being taken away, we are bothered now. So that's why, first of all, that's why we are so concerned about globalization. Now, how the language gets affected. Today I'll give you example. Because of this globalization, the one better side of it, flip sides are many, but the better side of it is that all of a sudden, humans are always psychologically geared to protect themselves. So the moment I am under attack, there was a time when Bengali language, the Hindi language, grew up and rose because of Bengali support. And then, all of a sudden, when they realized that, come on, this Hindi is becoming a kind of a demon, a Frankenstein, they just left their hands. Today, it is not the same case. Suniti Kumar Chatterjee of this Bengal in 1946, he was one of the ardent propagator of Hindi being the Hindi as Hindustani, not Hindi as a Sanskritized Hindi, Hindi as a Hindustani of the national language of Hindi. But all of a sudden, in 1956, when the report was tabled, he, along with a person from Tamil Nadu, Mr. P. Subba Rayan, and Suniti Kumar Chatterjee, they were the two people who opposed. So no, Hindi cannot become a national language. It will eat us up. So, this is the protectionism. Now, protectionism, what happens today? In Uttarakhand, there's a tribe known as Rung. All of a sudden, children, when they are getting educated in foreign languages, to me, even Hindi is a foreign language. My mother tongue is Bhojpuri. I am getting displaced by other languages. For Hindi, English, when I have to go abroad for a better work and better this thing, today I am talking to you in English fluently because I have been taught to speak like this and to a particular language. So these languages, when they start pushing you back, then you become, you fight for a protection and safety. This, like, for example, these tribal languages, Rung in Uttarakhand. Then I was just reading somewhere, this one boy in Baripada district in Odisha, some village, where Ho language is a Santhali, Ho is Bhasha, that whole language, that's the Vayang Chiti is the script, but he did not find that script. So he took the help of the web, internet, he learnt the language, the letters, he created those letters, and today he runs a blog, and he has learnt Bengali. Hindi, Odia, all three languages, so that he can translate the words to the nearest possible Odia, Hindi or English. See, the kind of, earlier we could not have imagined this to be happening. In Rung, Uttarakhand, this tribe, the children ganged up, and through WhatsApp, they started speaking to each other in that language and that script. They're writing in that script. Today, a person like me who is originally not a Bengali, but when I speak, interact with one of my Bengali friend, I try to write in Bengali script. I may be wrong at times, but I try to do that. Why? Because that adds a kind of a skill to me. So nowadays, language has become a more of a skill rather than something which is getting extinct and endangered and something to be feared of. You know, you can in Latin America, Quechua, Aymara, Guarani, all these languages are endangered, extinct languages now. They are under, today, while we are talking 2025, the out of, I think 44 or 45% of languages are under threat of extinction. Only 48% or so are established languages. 6 point some percentage are institutionalized language, in which English and Hindi and all these things will come, Spanish will come, Chinese will come, Mandarin. Otherwise, the 44%, which are those languages? Those languages are the languages which are being spoken by less than 10,000 people. 50, 60 families. In India itself, we have, in India, we have 1,652 languages according to a 1971 census, but now we have rationalized it and clubbing together, and so we have around 780. Total 7,000 something. India 780. The highest is Papua New Guinea. That has 807 languages. For then India, and then followed by Indonesia, which has around 700 languages there also. So these languages, out of these, nobody is bothering. I mean, in Indonesia, I have worked there. There also, they are mainly the Javanese. Bhasa Indonesia is being, propagated everywhere. But that doesn't mean in this globalization, on one hand, it has caused a little bit of cause of concern for languages which are smaller languages that are getting pushed aside or being diminished to a lower level. But at the same time, there is a revival of this awareness where people and youngsters have started working in their own for their own languages, writing. For example, even why did I write a novel in Bhojpuri? Because I realized if I do not write, then who will write? Because after me, my son is not going to write in Bhojpuri, for sure. But if I write, perhaps a book will remain with him, and tomorrow he will also be able to at least learn something out of it. So this is how it is happening. To me, this whole globalization impact on language and literature comes like this. We can always develop upon it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The common thread continues, right? We're all talking about languages, and I was just, as you were talking, I was just reminded of just a couple of days ago, we had a newspaper report where we're talking about Hindi eating up these, kind of taking away all these dialects that you refer to, you speak about that. I was also reminded of another book which I happened to read some time ago, which is called the Big Book of Odia Literature. And what's very interesting about this particular book is that, there are several works in several languages which are no longer used, no longer spoken in Orissa, about which I had no clue absolutely. And I think that's a very nice way in which you're bringing these literatures written. Many of them are oral literatures, right? There is no written record of them, but you're bringing them into a volume, as all the three of you have spoken about how, globalization has also made us very aware of these disappearing languages, that after some time, because a language is not just words, not just spoken words, not just written words, there's so much more to it. There's culture, there is this literature, there are the oral stories which are there, which with the disappearance of the language will slowly disappear. And all the three of you have actually spoken about that, and I think that is something that each of us are aware of and concerned with. And move on to the last panelist, Rolf Dopenberg, to make his comments.
Thank you very much. I'm already very happy and activated by the different commentaries of the people on the panel. I was already touched to hear about Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, to hear, of course, from Tagore. So I think the problem with globalization is the economical dimension, which is destroying the planet at a very high rate. So this is a curse for sure. On the level of literature, the globalization is a risk too, not only for the disappearing of diversity of languages, but also for a uniformization of literature, which make the level of the quality much lower. It's a bit like the global music, or world music, is a kind of mix which is really lowering the quality of music. So this is a very big risk. But globalization is also a chance on a cultural level. And we were talking about Mahabharata and the Odyssey of Homer. So I think that the globalization of culture began a long time ago. I'm now in the Ramakrishna Mission guest house, and I think that souls like Ramakrishna were already preparing a deep cultural globalization. His disciple Vivekananda was writing about universal humanism. So this was already the deeper way of cultural globalization. Raman was mentioning Tagore. As a very young student, I discovered the Gitanjali of Tagore, and for me it was like a revelation, because I had never read such a text, such a form. It is not only poetry for me, it is much deeper. So Tagore was also for me someone who prepared a deeper kind of globalization on a literal level. And I want to speak today about Scottish writer, which is not very well known, but I think that his work is a very important step in the evolution of the global literature. His name is Kenneth White, and he was born in a place which had like an echo when I arrived in Kolkata. I was in the center of Kolkata, in the Buddhist center, invited in the Bauda Dharmankur Sabha, close to the central station of the Metropolitan. And I decided to walk to the Ganga River, to the Hooghly River, which is an arm of the Ganga waters. And I arrived directly to a place called Fairley Jetty number 2, Fairley, where you can take the ferry to go to the other side of the river. And Fairley is the name of the place where Kenneth White was born. It's a very small village in Scotland, north of Glasgow. So it was like an echo of Kenneth White. So Kenneth White describes his work as an arrow. The point of the arrow is his poetry. He passed away 3 years ago. The body of the arrow is his travel experience. He was traveling around the world already in the 60s, 70s. And the end of the arrow are his philosophical essays. So he began to travel a lot. He began to travel in Hong Kong. He wrote one of the first books in Hong Kong, And then he came to India. And India was an important step in his life and in his work. He went to Varanasi and wrote a book together with a photograph. And this was the first book I read from Kenneth White. And afterwards, traveling in many different countries, he developed an essay called Nomadic Spirits, which is a book which tries to explain his way of traveling and being aware not only of the reality you can feel when you're traveling, but trying as a traveler to get deeper in the culture of the country where you are. So, for example, when he was in India, he was dealing with the Bhagavad Gita, with the Upanishad, with all the Vedic literature, trying to get a feeling not as a scholar, but as a traveler. Seeing, I think we're now in a time where it's not possible to have an overview either from global literature, neither from our own culture, because it's developing in such a rich way that it's only possible to have a sporadic understanding of the world, which is not negative, but it's important to have some islands in our knowledge. So Kenneth White developed this essay and has been writing since this book a lot of different essays, a lot of poetry. And I think this is a very important point for every human being to deal not only with his own culture, but also to look for very different cultures. Because language and literature is also a very other point of view of reality, and the more different the perspective, the more rich your understanding of the world. So that's why I had the chance as a child to live 2 years in China, and I learned elements of Chinese, not as a scholar, not as a specialist, but developing a kind of emotional relationship to the Chinese literature, to the Chinese way of thinking. And then I traveled in different countries, always trying to come deeper to the understanding of the culture of those different countries. Last is India. I came to India 5 years ago for the first time in South India, Andhra Pradesh, Vijayawada. And this was the beginning for me for a deeper way inside India. And India is, for me, the perfect land of diversity. I think there is no land in the world with such a diversity. We have spoken about the languages. It's a diversity of people, diversity of climate, which has no other country in the world. And I think this is a hope for humanity to see that India is a kind of experimental laboratory, so to say, of such a diversity in one country. It makes it possible for humanity as a whole also to deal with diversity without losing our own identities. I think I will stay. Yes.
Thank you so much. You very fittingly, you actually brought the whole discussion and whatever all the other panelists have been saying to a conclusion almost, where you speak about travel, where you speak about the exchange of ideas. Each of you have spoken about the way in which the internet is also working, because I think the fact that all of us are here on one stage is also something to do with that, with this cultural exchange, the movement of people from one place to another. When we are moving, we are also taking a lot of our own literature here. And we're speaking about these various cultures, various literary figures that we have read. We've read Goethe much before we knew anything about German literature. You have read Tagore. He speaks about Tagore in a Chinese translation. That was fascinating to hear about that. So I think we'll bring the panel to an end. This has been a very enriching experience for me to hear four practitioners of literature talk about their thoughts about language, about culture, about the way in which globalization is affecting it. And I think most of us have been speaking about the positive effects of it, because even though we are concerned about the disappearing of some languages, we have some hope, because we do have people trying to work in these languages and somehow see to it that these languages survive. Both of you have spoken about that. And this has really been a very enriching, I'm sure most of you will agree with that, because, and we're almost as if we're on the same level playing field, we're almost in sync with one another, speaking about similar ideas in a very, very different ways. So thank you so much to each one of you for being part of this panel, and thank you to our audience as well. Thank you so much.
Would you like to take the photograph at first, or we'll go with the mementos? With the okay. So this was a very engaging and illuminating session, and I thank all the panelists and the moderator, Dr. Nishi Pulugurta. And we go on with the presenting the mementos, and for that we would request Arif Raja to come over here and hand over the mementos to our four distinguished panelists. First, Professor Swati Guha. Yes. Now, P. Raman sir.
We met 2 or 3 years ago in Kerala. Thank you.
Now, Rolf Daffenberg. Except memories.